I am Shivaji Bhaskar, Faculty of Russian at the School of Foreign Languages, IGNOU. I welcome you all to this course, Basics of Russian Communication Skills, Part 1. As you know that in this course, we have been discussing about various aspects of the Russian grammar. In the previous module, we have discussed about various case system of Russian. In the case system of Russian, we have discussed about various cases, and if you remember, we have discussed about a very important aspect of the Russian grammar which talks about possession, belonging or negation. In this, we have came across two important questions which denotes whether the noun is animate or inanimate, and accordingly we have the question like kavo and chivo, ukavo and uchivo. So, to understand it in a better manner, we will be having a few more examples. Please pay attention to the examples for neuter singular noun which indicates possession or belonging. Please pay attention to the first sentence. Chema pisma очень интересная. Chema chivo. Chema pismo changes into pisma. So, that is why here pismo, which is a noun of neuter gender, changes into pisma. The second one is krasata Maria ni abikna vennaya. So, here the noun more changes into Maria. The third one is chini zdanya голубые. Here zdanye, which is a neuter gender noun, changes into zdanya. So, accordingly, as you have seen that the relation between the noun is changing as per the requirement of this case. Now, we will go ahead and pay attention to the important changes in the endings of nouns. As we know that these nouns which indicate possession, belonging are used with interrogative word chivo. And when do we use chivo? Especially when we have any noun of inanimate nature. So, here we have certain examples with us such as в комнате нет окна. Чего нет? Окна. Чего нет в комнате? Окна нет. So, окно changes into окна. The second one is в институте нет общежития. So, общежитие, which is of neutral gender, changes into общежития. Чего нет в институте? Общежития. Чего нет? Общежития нет. So, like this you have to remember this basic concept, how do we change the noun, especially when we are talking about any specific relation between the case. So, in this case we have the question chivo, and accordingly all nouns of neuter gender are changing into chivo, нет, окно changes into окна, общежитие changes into общежития, здание changes into здания, pismo changes into pisma, like this. So, I hope you will remember this important aspect, how do we change the ending of the noun depending upon the question we frame. Now, we shall go ahead and pay attention to some of the words. So, in neuter singular nouns which ends with o, ye or ie changes into a, ya and iya. So, any word which ends with o like pismo will change into pisma. Any word which is ending with ye like zdanye changes into zdanya, and any word which is ending with ie like общежитие changes into iya like общежития. So, the questions we have in nominative is что, but in this case we have the question chivoniat. So, pismo changes into pisma, akno changes into akna, nachala changes into nachala, kalichestva changes into kalichestva, likarstva changes into likarstva, slova changes into slava. So, here if you pay attention closely to the ending of sto, we have pismo ends with o, but chivoniat pisma. But in some of the cases like likarstva, kalichestva, slava, they are also changing, but the pronunciation is similar, like kalichestva, kalichestva, likarstva, likarstva, slova, slava. Here o is getting changed into a. So, you have to remember this. However, there are certain rules of pronunciation Russian which you must have learned in your previous modules of phonetics, but as far as the written comprehension and written style is concerned, you have to be very careful about changing the ending of these nouns depending upon the requirement of the question or the case. Alright, now let us go ahead and pay attention to a few more words. So, we have the question что and the words are дерево, чувство, чувство, количество, общество, творчество, море, поле, общежитие and здание. So, дерево changes into дерево, чувство changes into чувства, количество ends with o, but pronunciation is количество changes into количество, общество ends with o, but the pronunciation is общество changes into общество, творчество changes into творчество, море changes into моря, поле changes into поля, общежитие changes into общежитие and здание changes into здание. So, I hope you would follow the rules of the grammar when you change the ending of these words. Now, we shall go ahead and pay attention to the rest of the words such as действие, издание, явление, образование, имя and время. Действие would change into действия, издание would change into издания, явление would change into явления, образование would change into образование, имя changes into имени and vremya changes into vremini. So, it indicates the possession and belonging. So, that is why all these different nouns of different genders, in present case the neuter gender changing like this. We will be having more such examples in our upcoming modules, but before that let us pay attention to some more concepts. You have to remember that words such as radio, palto, taxi, cafe, they always remain unchanged. So, these are like exceptions in Russian grammar. So, the words are radio means radio, palto, taxi and cafe, they would remain same. After numerals dva, 3, chitire, like we have done in the case of masculine and feminine, now we are doing the neuter. So, that is why after numerals dva, 3, chitire, the neuter nouns that they qualify also takes the above mentioned form like dva. If we have the noun akno would change into dvakna, triakna, chitiriakna. Pismo would change into dva pisma, tri pisma, chitiri pisma. And accordingly, pole would change into palya, more change into marya, zdaniya would change into zdanya, zdaniya, общежития, like this. So, you have to be very careful while using the numerals like 2, 3 and 4. You would certainly be learning about the numerals in the genitive case with lots of examples and many other verbs and their conjugated form sentences in that particular module, but however, we are right now discussing about the belongingness or the possession, that is why this exercise is important. Okay, now let us go ahead and pay attention to a few more such important aspects. Please pay attention to the model. В его комнате 4 and then in the bracket you can see we have IGNOU. So, we know the rule chitiri akna. Likewise, you can change the rest of the words which we have given you for the exercises, and then you would know about the rules whether you are learning it properly or not. Okay? All right. Now, let us go ahead and pay attention to some of the important aspects. If we have a question like u kabo yes, kto and что, so model is u. The question we are going to frame is we are using a word jedushka. U kavo, because jedushka is an animate. U jedushka would change into u jedushki, yes, malinkaya dacha. Why? Because we have just learned about the grammar that any word which ends with a would change into e, jedushki. Yes, if we have babushka, it would change into babushki. Mama would change into mamu. Papa would change into papu. And likewise, you can change many other different words like Anton, u Antona, Sergei, u Sergeya, Anand, u Ananda, like this. So, I hope you always remember these important aspects, how do we change them and do the exercise properly. Okay. Now, let us go ahead and pay attention to a few more words. If we pay attention to the model, udruga yes much, it is a question. So, you can answer that. Udruga niyat macheri. So, whenever we are using niyat, then the ending of that noun changes. So, mach changes into macheri. У студентки есть книга. У студентки нет книги. Книга changes into книги. Likewise, in other questions, you can also see the relation and answer it accordingly. Okay, now let us go ahead. If you pay attention to the model, деревня есть поликлиника. So, if we ask the question, в деревне есть поликлиника, в деревне нет поликлиники. So, поликлиника would change into поликлиники. Okay, now let us go ahead. And here you can see quite a number of questions we have prepared for you. Read them properly and answer. Okay, now let us go ahead. Now, in case of negation, the same change take place in the past and future tense. Since we have learned about the tenses in the present, we will compare that how it changes into the form of past tense or future tense. Let us see the sentence number 1. В комнате нет друга. It's a present tense, we know. Now, the second one is в комнате не было друга. So, if we are saying in past tense, then we use было. And if we want to use future tense, it would be в комнате не будет друга. So, нет, было, будет. It's like this. So, in place of нет друга, we would use не было друга for past tense and не будет друга for future tense. Likewise, you can also make your own sentences and make your own small text or passage. Now, let us pay attention to the second. Рядом нет почты. Present tense. Now, we shall make past tense and future tense. Рядом не было почты. Рядом не будет почты. So, like this, you can also make more sentences using the same set of rules which we have just learned in this module, and make as many sentences you can in present, past or future. Okay? All right. So, here you can see a few more such examples we have. На столе нет письма, на столе не было письма, and на столе не будет письма. If you pay attention to the activity, you see we have the model универмаге нет, ресторан would change into ресторана, не было ресторана, не будет ресторана. В универмаге нет ресторана, не было ресторана, не будет ресторана. So, like this, you can also make your own sentences. So, here in this exercise, you can see we have questions like в зале нет, and in the bracket you can see товарищ. We would change it into past as in future. В зале нет товарища, не было товарища, не будет товарища. Like this, you can also change as per the rules of the grammar which we have learned. Now, we will go ahead and pay attention to a few more exercises. Please pay attention to the model. Universitete niet polikliniki. So, poliklinika changes into polikliniki. Now, we have rядом нет театра, на столе нет лампы, на стене нет картины, у него нет письма, у него нет матери. And then you can use the same sentences in the present tense form into the past tense and in future by putting не было and не будет. Okay, let's go ahead. Here you can see some of the examples we have used in the model, such as на столе нет бумаги. So, бумага is changing into бумаги. Likewise, you can change у меня нет машины, в ящике нет карандаша, в зале нет друга, сегодня отца нет дома, рядом нет поля. Alright, please change them into past and future as we have just learned by using не было and не будет. Okay, let's go ahead. Here we are going to discuss a new aspect of the Russian grammar while using adjectives which expresses possession, belongingness and negation. If you remember, in this module we have been discussing about the nouns, but now we are going to talk about adjectives. So, to qualify or to make sense in any sentence, we normally use the noun, verb and adjectives. Adjectives, they are very important in order to express the entire meaning of the noun. With the help we would use possession, belongingness and negation. To understand it in a proper manner, let us pay attention to some of the examples. Adjectives which qualifies masculine singular noun indicating possession, belonging or negation. These adjectives we will also be used with interrogative word such as kakava, because it is masculine gender. So, adjectives with the ending u ikratki or o ikratki changes into avo. How do we understand? Please pay attention to the example. В этом районе нет нового дома. So, новый дом in nominative case changes into нового дома when we use нет. В этом доме or в этом районе нет нового дома. Likewise, you would also see a few more examples. Let us go ahead to understand them. Комнаты нового дома большие. So, комнаты, a plural of комната, нового дома, of what? Of new house, большие. So, the windows of the new house are big. Alright, so here we have seen that novi changes into novova. Similarly, we will pay attention to a few more words where we will put some adjectives and we will see that how they are changing. Красивый актер changes into красивого актера. Современный город changes into современного города. Известный писатель changes into известного писателя. And большой театр changes into большого театра. So, this is the basic rule which require the adjective and the noun together in nominative, and whenever we are putting negation нет, it changes into with the help of ending of the adjective and the ending of the noun as per the rules of the grammar which we have learned. Now, the adjectives are ending with I kratki and yivo. The adjectives which are ending with I kratki changes into yivo. For example, сын младшего брата учится в школе. So, сын младшего брата, son of a younger brother учится в школе, studies in school. Or дома нет младшего брата, the younger brother is not at home. So, these are the two different examples which we have used in order to understand the relation, the possession and negation, and we would see them that how the Malatsi or the younger changes into Malatshava, because it is ending with E Kratki, and if you replace E Kratki, it would change into Malatshava, like we have said. Similarly, we have certain examples with us, such as Starshi Brat means elder brother, changes into Starsheva Brata. Kharoshi Gorad, good city, changes into Kharosheva Gorad. So, here the main emphasis is on the ending of the adjective E Kratki, changes into Yevo, Ye, Ge, O. Likewise, Pasledni Concert, Paslednava Concerta. So, we have to remember that if the adjective is ending with E Kratki, which is preceded by Ge, Ke, Kh, then the adjective would end into Yevo, O, Ge and O. Whereas in the previous case we have seen the adjective ending with E Kratki are changing into Ye, Ge, O, Yevo. So, we have to remember certain examples where adjectives are ending with E Kratki, but they are preceded by letter Ge, Ke and Kh. They are changing into O. How? Let us see. Malenki Sad. So, Malenki Sad changes into Malinkava Sada. Chikhi Akyan, Chikhava Akyana, and Strogi Chilavek, Strogava Chilavieka. So, I hope you would remember the rules of the grammar here and change the adjectives accordingly. But there is very interesting aspect in this. We are dealing with the adjective endings and the nouns, but in Russian there are certain nouns which might resemble to the adjective ending which we have learned, such as Ruski. For example, on Ruski Chilaviek. Ruski is an adjective in this sentence, whereas in the next one, Ivan Ruski or Zhon Americanets. Here Ruski is a noun. So, you have to really very cautious about using the adjective in a particular context. The second one is Eta Znakomy Rayon. Here Znakomy is used as an adjective, whereas Maya Znakomaya Zhivyot Nidaliko. Here Znakomy in a feminine form, Znakomaya, has been used as noun. Then the third one is Eta moi rabochi stol. So, rabochi has been used as adjective, whereas rabochie stroyat dom. Here the plural form of rabochi has been rabochie, which is a noun. Now, let us understand the meaning of these three. On Ruski Chilavek, he is a Russian man or a Russian person, but normally we use Ivan Ruski. Ivan is a Russian, or John Americanets, and John is an American. So, in this case it is noun, in the previous case it was like adjective. Likewise, Eta Znakomy Rayon, this is a known region, adjective, whereas in the second one, Maya Znakomaya Zhivyot Nidaliko, my known woman lives not very far, noun. Then the third one is Eta moi rabochi stol. Eta moi rabochi stol means this is my working desk, adjective, whereas in the second one, rabochie stroyat dom. So, rabochie means workers, they are building house, has been used as noun. So, you can also use the context and decide whether the word should fall into adjective or noun depending upon the context. However, these are certain exceptions which we find in Russian. Okay, now let us go ahead and pay attention to a few more concepts of Russian with the help of examples. So, now let us see some examples to understand this concept clearly. Please pay attention to the model. Улицы хороший, Goroda обычно широкие. So улицы means street. Of what? So now let's pay attention to the model to understand it fully. Улицы, the adjective which we have here is хороший. Goroda обычно широкие. If we apply the rule of the grammar here is, then the sentence would be улицы хорошего города обычно широкие. The streets of good cities are normally, usually wider. So likewise you have many more questions like у него нет старший брат, у него нет старшего брата. So нет, which is used as negation, старший changes into старшего, and brata, because it is a noun, remains same, старшего брата. Now we will go ahead and pay attention to a few more exercises. Like the first one, дома современный города часто высокие. So современный would change into дома современного города часто высокие. And likewise you can change rest of the words as per the rule of the grammar which we have learned in this module. Okay, now let's go ahead. Now the interrogative word for the qualifying adjective which we have just discussed is kakava. So adjectives ending in oa changes into avo. First we have done the masculine gender. So the ending of the adjectives are e kratki and e kratki changes into ovo or yevo. Now we have some adjectives which ends in oa. It would change into avo. For example, предложение нового письма очень интереснее. Предложение changes into предложение нового письма очень интереснее. Or на столе нет. Что нет? Нового письма. So письмо changes into письма and новый changes into нового. Нового письма. So adjective ending is changing as per the rule of the grammar along with the noun. Okay, now let's go ahead and pay attention to a few more such words. Черное море, черного моря, большое общежитие, большого общежития. And we will be having a few more examples. Let's go ahead in order to understand them properly. Маленькое кафе, маленького кафе. Why cafe is not changing? Because there are certain words like radio, taxi, cafe, they remain same. That is why malinkaya is changing into malinkava, but cafe remains cafe. So similarly, adjectives which ends in ye changes into yevo. Let's see how. For example, слово последнего письма очень простые. На столе нет последнего письма. So последний is changing into последнего. Or the next example is хорошее кресло. So хорошее кресло changes into хорошего кресла. In place of хорошее, we can also use удобное кресло would change into удобного кресла. But however, when we are talking about the adjective ending which ends with ye, that is why we are having this example here. Alright, now let's go ahead and pay attention to a few more words. Синее небо, синего неба, and соседнее здание, соседного здания. So we see that the endings of adjectives qualifying the masculine singular and neuter singular nouns indicating possession, belonging and negation are same. So this concept is clear that for masculine and neuter the rule of the grammar in this case remains same. Now let's pay attention to the model. Двери, соседний, здания, большие. So соседний would change into соседного, двери соседнего здания большие. The second one, у дедушки нет. Что нет? Хорошего кресла. Хорошее changes into хорошего and кресло changes into кресло. So O changes into A. Now let's go ahead and pay attention to a few examples such as на этой улице нет. Что нет? Кафе. Маленькое кафе. So маленькое would change into маленького кафе. Cafe would remain same. Likewise, красота. Черное море. So черное море would be черного моря. Then you have комнаты. So комнаты нового общежития маленькие. The fourth one would be в этом зале нет. Что нет? Большое окно. So большое окно would change into нет большого окна. And цена пальто высокое. Красное пальто. So красное would change into красного пальто высокое. Пальто remains same. As per the rule we have learned radio, taxi and palto and cafe, likewise they remain same. So I hope this concept is absolutely clear to you all, since we have discussed the relation between the adjectives and the nouns in this module, and now we know that for masculine and the neuter the rule of the grammar remains same as far as the adjective endings are concerned, and especially when we are using the negation while using niyat. In our upcoming module, we shall be discussing about the relation of the adjective endings and the noun endings for the feminine gender words and nouns, and we will see what kind of changes do we see while using them in sentences. I hope all these exercises along with the concepts of the grammar are clear to you. Thank you.